just know the solution to all the world's problems. Yeah, little old me, and around the way girl from Gary, Indiana. Hello, good people. Welcome to the Harmonious.Balance channel. My name is Joanna, and to start off for your consideration today, I have a question. Have you ever been so sure of yourself, but then turned out to be wrong about something? Let me ask you a second question. Are you open to being wrong? Seems like odd questions. Well, first, let me tell you a story. I was watching a fictional TV show. Two friends that were thick as thieves growing up became estranged as adults. Supposedly, one of the friends, friend A, messed around with the uncle of friend B, friend B's aunt's husband. Now, it turns out the uncle was an awful man. He made advances to friend A and tried to force himself upon her. She was able to fight him off and got away, but he chose to ruin her reputation by lying about his encounter with her. Friend B believed her uncle and never actually heard her friend's side of the story, and their friendship became fractured. Now, as adults, they finally sit down and have a heart-to-heart. Friend A tells friend B what actually happened. Friend B gets all teary-eyed saying, "I didn't know, I'm so sorry." Now, I remember thinking, of course, friend B didn't know. Friend B probably didn't want to know. She was so certain that what she heard friend A do was factual, and the idea of being wrong never occurred to her. So another story, this time a real life one. I worked once for a small organization, and the CEO had been known to say that he was open to being wrong. Now, we usually hear people say that, "I hope I'm wrong," but they say it because they are certain that their opinion of a situation is actually right. So it's actually kind of patronizing and annoying if you think about it. But the way our CEO was saying it, it sounded as if that this was really different, that he actually was open to being wrong. He was confident in his take on the situation, but he wasn't so wedded in being right. So back to my original question, are you open to being wrong? How many situations have you been in where you've learned some new information and realized you were wrong? How many guilty verdicts have been overturned? How many police shootings have occurred, police killings have occurred because they thought a person had a weapon only to find out the person was unarmed? How many suspects have been misidentified in a lineup? Now, I remember watching an Oprah show episode back in the day where a woman was sharing her story of being raped. She said she made it a point to study this man's features so that she could properly identify him later. She was so sure that she ID'd him correctly and accurately, but later found out that he indeed was not the perpetrator. Now, I couldn't find that particular Oprah show clip, but I did find a similar local news story in Minnesota. And it might actually be the same lady from the Oprah show because the details sound very, very similar. Let's take a listen real quick.
I made two decisions that night. One is I wasn't going to die, not like that. And that if I lived, I was going to pay attention to every detail about his face and remember everything that I could in those moments where I could look at his face and remember all the details about the face. I would burn it into my mind.
Jennifer eventually escaped, eventually made her way to the police, where she used that image burned in her mind for an artist to create this sketch. Soon, police had a suspect and showed Jennifer a bunch of photos.
And as I'm looking over the photographs, and for me there was 6, I was able to discount 4, came down to 2, and I picked up one that I said, "This is the man." And they said, "Are you sure?" "I'm positive." I initialed the back of it, and they looked at me and said, "Good job. That's who we thought it was." And that was incredibly powerful for me because I wanted to do a good job. I wanted to help pull this person off the street.
A few days later, police put Jennifer through an in-person suspect lineup.
And again, I was given the instructions, don't feel compelled to choose anyone. Suspect may or may not be in there. But I picked number 5. We wrote on a piece of paper. And the officer said, "That's who you picked out in the photograph." And again, that was very confirming for me that I had gotten it right, that I was a good victim.
So how confident were you?
Oh, I was 100% absolutely positive that I had gotten the right guy.
That guy she says she was 100% sure about was Ronald Cotton, number 5. Ronald went to trial. Jennifer again ID'd him in court. It took a jury 4 hours to convict him, and a judge sentenced him to life. 11 years went by. Cotton maintained his innocence. In 1995, Jennifer was asked to give a DNA sample.
So I gave him the blood, and off it went to the lab, and I did not think about it until June of 1995, when they came back and looked at me and said, Ronald Cotton never raped you. It was a man by the name of Bobby Poole. I just couldn't understand it.
Not only had Jennifer ID'd the wrong man, while Cotton was in prison, Poole went on to rape other women.
I just really began to suffocate and was just paralyzed.
Just with guilt?
With everything. Guilt, fear, shame, confusion, anger, disbelief, and me. It was really one of the hardest things it was much harder than the night I was raped.
Pretty chilling when you think about it. But we hold on to our positions. Think about arguments and disagreements we have with our friends and loved ones. We draw conclusions, insisting our point of view is right, only to find out we were wrong when we finally sit down and have a heart-to-heart. This has happened far too many times, but we don't seem to apply the lessons that we learned, even though we've had countless opportunities to do so. So I shared in the Harmonious.Balance launch video that I've worked in higher education. And I remember a conversation with the philosophy instructor. He was actually making the case for liberal arts and humanities majors, because they were trying to say that those majors don't mean anything. One thing that stuck with me from the conversation was him saying that the majority of the world's problems are ideological, that the root cause of these problems is ideological. We have proposals and solutions that we do not act on because of ideologies that we believe in. We insist that our take on the situation is not just accurate, but morally superior. Our ego has a real attachment to being right, even though we have gobs of evidence that we are wrong a lot. We still insist we are right in our assessment of things, not just ordinary mundane things either. I mean highly consequential things, life and death level. What am I proposing as the solution to all the world's problems? I propose and strongly recommend that we become open to being wrong, and not in a patronizing way, but with all sincerity and humility, because we know we can be wrong and have been wrong many, many times. When I was in grad school, and I believe we actually might have done this in high school as well, but we had to debate different ideas, and we had to make the case for all sides, not just the side that we believed in. Now in law, debating this way is solely for the purpose of tearing down the opposing argument. There's an agenda in legal proceedings. With what I'm proposing, we'd have to throw out agendas. What I am proposing is not to seek a win, rather to seek a win-win. What I'm proposing requires our egos to take a back seat. What I'm proposing requires us not to be beholden to a set of ideas. What I'm proposing requires us not to be presumptuous. What I'm proposing requires selflessness and prioritizing relationships. Now, after hearing all of this, you're probably like, good luck with that. Joanna, you're asking folks to overcome an age-old human flaw. Yeah, I know. And I'm not under any illusion that people will just simply fall in line. Definitely not under any illusion that our major power structures will become humble anytime soon. The one thing we've learned from history is that we fail to learn from history. But it doesn't make my proposal less valid. It's not rocket science, and it's within our capability. Those who operate this way have more peace and have better relationships. So on an individual level, we can make changes for the better. And who knows? If there's enough individual level change, then maybe there could be some impact at a greater scale. Well, that's all I wanted to share today. Please remember, my intention is never to be messy or controversial, nor do I want to come across as overly simplistic or idealistic. I simply share these ideas with the hope of impacting our discourse for the better. Please take these ideas for what they are worth to you, as I simply offer my thoughts for your consideration.